This is a model A-1 Pedrick bending machine with a digital control. We're going to do a general overview on some of the machine parts, do some tooling change outs, and do a general overview on the digital control as well. So this is our stop arm. It's typically involved in keeping the die from rotating. We've got a short slide in there that we'll use for some of our dies, and a couple of our dies actually have keys also. So that would take the place of any connection here. Our bending arm is on this side, and it's going to be the one that rotates around and actually bends the material. It's got a roller that can be moved in and out, and then we'll use our filler blocks to take up any slack. We've got a few different types of tooling that are being shipped with this machine, and they all have different features. The first one is a slotted post die, and it's got a key, so we're just gonna slip it right in there, and that's it on the change out for that one. The material will go in this slot and be bent around the nose. Here's another style of post die that does not have the key in it, and due to spring back of the material, I'm opting to use the short slide, and that way if the material binds on the retract, the arm can actually rotate out of the way, where the key would keep that die from rotating. And so for that, we're going to use our hex head bolt and get that lined up just right. And we'll just snug this up with a wrench. And that one would be ready to go. And we would utilize these filler blocks to take up the extra space here. And let's see. Snug up our set screw in the back. And that post die would be, this one's for 1/2 inch, so we'd have our 1/2 inch rods through there, and then we'll bend around that post. So to take it out, we're just going to remove our bolt. And slide it out. All right, our third style of die is a donut die. And so we'll actually have to install our spindle extension to accommodate this one. So we'll slide that in our spindle, give us a little extra room here. And then that'll slip over our spindle extension. And we will set this up the same exact way with our bolt, take up the slack, and tighten that set screw. All right, now we'll do a general overview on the PLC. It's currently powered off, so I'm going to plug her in, get power to the unit, and we'll go through the startup. I'll go ahead and release the emergency stop. And now we're just going to wait on it to load. It's going to take 20, maybe 20 seconds. And we'll go through setting up our recipe, which is going to tell our machine what bends to make and what sequence of bends to make. And then we'll overview a manual usage versus an automatic run. All right, so this is your general home screen. And if you're ever on another screen and need to get back here, we're going to hit F6, which shows that it's a screen. So that's kind of how you get back here. Now you can see we've got an alarms. Typically, you can go there and clear any alarms that might pop up. We've talked about the screens option. We'll use F7 to enter manual mode and F8 to enter automatic mode. And we're going to use F9 to set up our recipe. And F10 calibrate if you need to, if you would like to make any adjustments to kind of the ratio of the degrees, if it's not matching up very well. you can go in the calibration screen and play with that. But typically when they leave here, they're pretty close to being logically calibrated there. So, all right, well, let's get into our recipe first. So let's say I wanted to make 90-degree bends all day long. We're gonna go to our recipe. All right, and I've got this set up to alternate between bend 1 and bend 2 right now. So we're gonna adjust bend 1, and then I'll have to also adjust bend 2. So to account for spring back, I'll say let's set this for 95 degrees. I'm gonna delete that first digit and we'll change that to 95 and hit enter. And then if I want to adjust bend 2's recipe, I've got to hit enter on that location, change that to a 2, and then we'll see our bend angle change once that's active. So I would need to go in and make this 95 as well. So in that case, once I make my first bend, it will register that I'm making bend 2, but it'll still make that same bend angle based off this recipe. Now let's say I wanted to make some parts where the first bend is 30 degrees and the second bend is 180 degrees. So on bend 2, we'll make this 180. Let's make it 185. And we're gonna make bend 135. And then we'll watch the machine process that and give you an idea of what that looks like usage wise. 35. Oh, that's good. All right, so we've got bend 1 set at 35 and bend 2 set at 185. And so let's make some bends. Let's make some dry runs here, and we'll visualize that as well. All right, so let's test our recipe out. I've got it in automatic mode. So once I hit the forward button, it's gonna run all the way through the bend and all the way back. And our first bend should go about 30 degrees, and our second bend is gonna make a full 180. So we hit forward, it should complete our full 30-degree bend. And then it's going to adjust to bend 2, which is gonna be our 180-degree bend. All right, now we're gonna go over manual versus automatic mode. So let's go to our screen here by hitting F6, and then we'll go to manual by hitting F7. Now in manual mode, I'm gonna have to hold the forward button until it makes the 35-degree bend. So I would hold this all the way, and it will stop when it reaches the desired angle. And then I would have to also reverse it by holding the reverse button until it reaches the home position. And that would, once I make the first bend manually, it still counters to the second bend, and it maintains that recipe. Now we'll go back into our screens and go into automatic mode with the F8. And now in this mode, once I hit forward, it's gonna complete the cycle. It's gonna make the full bend without stopping and go all the way home without me having to hit the reverse button. So that's a great feature, but when I have a lot of spring back involved, I mainly run in manual mode, because if you're not careful, that material will bind up on the return, and then you can have some tooling damage as a result of that. All right, so comparing manual versus automatic, if we hit F7 and enter our manual mode, I can basically jog this all the way through the cycle. Now when it gets to the 30 degrees of the first bend in this recipe, it's gonna limit out, and then I'll have to hold reverse or jog it until I get all the way back home. It'll still update to bend 2, so now it's gonna run all the way to 180. And so typically you just hold that to make the bend, and then I can back up just enough to get the material out for something that's got a little more spring back. And then once everything's out of the way, you can send it home. And when you look at automatic mode, the only way to stop it once it's running is to hit that E-stop. So it's gonna run that 30-degree bend all the way. And then we'd adjust our material and make our 180-degree bend. And I only recommend using automatic mode for stuff that doesn't have much spring back going on.